Good morning. Welcome from our playground, our studio here in The Hague. My name is Ali. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Natalie. Thanks a lot to the Hague Partners for bringing this masterclass here. Here we are in the studio, which we operate together with The Hague Tech. We are physically, majority of you joining are, you know The Hague pretty well. We are physically just outside of the Landvenue Oost-Indie station. I hope I didn't desecrate that name of the station. Inside the Soza building in The Hague Tech, that's where we have our office, and it's the studio, which today has been turned into a playground for you. My name is Ali, as Natalie mentioned, and I would like to give you a warm welcome to this masterclass going into the ever-evolving landscape of video marketing. Just for your information, this masterclass is going to be quite relaxed. I don't have any slides. I don't want to bore you with lots of technical stuff. So I know you have probably a lot of work, so feel free to just kind of treat this also as a live podcast. I'll be telling you some of the trends that we've been, witnessing with video marketing, some of the pitfalls, the common mistakes that people make, the opportunities, and of course, we are entering the age of AI. We have been in the age of AI for the last couple of years, but now you've seen a lot of tools coming out, and I wanted to try to tell you some of the areas where AI is really going to change the game a little bit, and where it's not really going to change the game much. So that's going to be the general scope of what we're going to go through. Just to give you a quick background, Holland Park Media, HPM, we are, I don't even know. So we started in 2017 as a startup. For those of you who are familiar with NFTs, we started up as an NFT platform. And in 2018, when we launched it, nobody knew what the heck we were doing with NFT. Nobody knew what NFTs were anyways. We were doing NFTs before NFTs were NFTs. And what essentially happened is, because we were doing this platform for digital art, we coincidentally just created a marketing agency, advertising creative agency. And yeah, so we thought we would start doing a bit of creative work on the side just to keep the ship running. And that kind of became the whole thing that we're doing today. So some years later, and we have been working with lots of parties around the city. Actually, many of you who are joining, we have been working together over the last couple of years. And today we've evolved into a team of approximately 15 people in The Hague. We're a full service media marketing skill house. We call ourselves a skill house. And that's because we don't really have standard services. We have skills, and when people come to us, we try to figure out a solution for it with our media and marketing skills. For your information, I don't have a clicker, but that's not because I have any slides. I just have bullet points that I'm just kind of going through, so don't worry about it. So that was a quick background about HPM. Now let's dive into video marketing. Most of you joining today are marketing managers, marketing executives, and video has been not just a part of the dish in the marketing. It's pretty much the whole dish. I mean, if you look at the internet traffic from 2023, it's estimated that about 82% of the entire internet traffic was video content. That's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all of it. And that made up to 82% of the entire internet traffic. And that's just not some kind of a trend anymore. I'm gonna say, I have a phrase prepared for this, and it's like, it's the new normal. And I know those of you in the events industry may not like that word much, but that is the new normal when it comes to marketing. Video is pretty much a staple of marketing. But why is that? Why is it that so many people are interested in video? That's pretty simple, because video is a multi-sensational thing, right? When you're reading a blog, it's just your eyes working. When you're listening to a podcast, it's only your ears working. But when you're watching a video, it's your eyes that are absorbing not just any text or animation that's on the screen, but also the entire visual and the angles and the composition and the lighting and the feeling, but also there is the music, and then there's the sound effects. And video is as pretty much as close as it gets to real life, to trigger all of our senses. It has this ability to tell stories, to connect on an emotional level, and really to engage in ways that other mediums just cannot do that. So that's pretty much why video has become such a big part of marketing, and this effect is a lot more pronounced in B2B. Today we're going to focus more on B2B rather than B2C, and that's why I'm also want to mention that this effect of video being so powerful is a lot more pronounced in B2B. As primarily because in B2B, you're not just selling products and services, we're actually building relationships. Most of the time, what we're doing is building relationship, we're building trust, we're building partnerships, credibility that we can do what we're saying that we can do. And that's where video becomes far more invaluable. If you look at some of the research done, compared to other mediums, viewers tend to retain a lot more information when it's in video format. Approximately 95% of a message when it's in video format is retained. And that's because the message is not only said out loud in a script, but it's also subliminal, right? It's in the vibe, it's in the composition, it's in the set. If I, for example, just sit on a podcast and say, hey, HBM, we're a playful company, okay, you could take my word for it. But if you see the madness that's happening behind me, then it just reinforces the point of us being a playful company, just having fun with what we're doing. So that's where video becomes a lot more powerful also as a communication tool, because you can pack a lot more message in it and allow the audience to retain a lot more of that message compared to pretty much any other form of communication, text, audio, whatever. Now moving, to how it can affect your video strategy. The last couple of years, we saw everybody say, oh yeah, video is gonna be the king of content. Short form is gonna be the king of content, whatever. And what we saw happening was that a lot of people just started producing tons of videos. And that kind of led into an interesting position because the budgets and the expertise weren't fully available to them. So you started seeing a lot of lower quality content coming out. And now what I'm personally seeing as with my daily job, which is consulting a lot of people on their marketing strategies and implementing video marketing, what I'm seeing a lot of times is that people are actually thinking more about maybe scaling down on the number of videos they're producing. So it's not just about creating lots and lots of videos, but that content just needs to resonate and it needs to tell a story that really resonates with the audience. It evolves to the preferences of that audience and that industry. In one sentence, it's about understanding the pulse of the market, what the market truly needs, and crafting videos that aligns perfectly with it. And market obviously changes quite rapidly, as we've seen the last couple of years. And this is where AI becomes a lot more interesting. And we're gonna get to that in a little bit, because AI has this ability, it's just in short form, AI has this ability to bring concepts to life much faster. So because the market is changing much faster, we also need to bring a lot of things to life much faster. And that's where AI becomes a very useful tool. It allows us to react to market, not instability per se, but market changes that are ever so faster these days. So yeah, with video marketing, it's all about just understanding our market and crafting videos that resonate with people. Now, I am personally very passionate about this topic, so I could probably sit here all day and talk to you about it, but I do need to keep an eye on the time because I can go off the rail and go deep into lots of different details. So with some of the trends that we've seen happening with video marketing, I don't think video marketing itself is a trend anymore. A couple of years ago, people were like, yeah, it's a new trend. It's not a trend anymore, it's a must. But some of the trends within video marketing, first and foremost, I would say is humanization. We've seen what happens when companies try to hide behind their logos and brands, and people are just not connecting with that. People want to know the real people. It doesn't matter whether it's a B2B or B2C. Even in B2B, the person who eventually signs on a contract is a person. It's not a logo, it's not a brand, it's an individual. And regardless of whether it's B2B and B2C, we always just need to connect with people, and people just want warmth and connection. That's, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So one of the most important factors with video marketing is authenticity and humanization. Think of like team stories, behind the scenes, showing how we call it employer branding, but it goes way beyond just a nice photo of your team. It goes into actually giving people a glimpse of what it looks like to be part of this this team, this organization, this mission that you're on. The other trend is this really picked up this year was short form content. Obviously Reels and TikToks and all were there, but YouTube Shorts just exploded this year. And you see that being used a lot more in B2B than other platforms. And I think primarily because of where YouTube is as a platform. It's a trusted platform where people actually learn. I mean, a lot of times if you ask me, my educational background is in mechanical engineering. If you ask me how I learned to do what I do today, 99% of the time I'm gonna tell you YouTube Academy. I was just so passionate about what I'm doing, I just started learning by myself. And YouTube Academy is a term that people understand, and that's because of the authority YouTube has built. And based off of that, YouTube Shorts have become a really good platform for B2B companies because it doesn't have the connotation of TikTok. Let's just leave it at that. And when you're looking at these trends, it's not really just about, they're not just changing the industry. They're really, they're revolutionizing the way we're looking at B2B video marketing. They're allowing us to take entirely different workflows, different approaches to our video marketing and make things a lot more fast and efficient. Now let's just take a step back and look at some of the mistakes that people make, and I've seen people make with video marketing and how they approach it. And I think first and foremost is the expectation trap. Many people jump into video marketing, and we've had this so many times. An organization would come to us and say, yeah, this is the first video that we're gonna make, and we want it to be awesome, and we want it to be fantastic. Oh, by the way, we also have this much of budget for it. And we're like, okay, that's gonna be an interesting, and we will do our best to obviously maximize the return on investment on that video. But at the end of the day, it's the expectation trap. You think that you're gonna create 1 video, 2 video, 3 videos, and it's gonna explode, and it's gonna go viral, and you're gonna get lots of heat leads. It doesn't work like that. It's about consistency. It's about timing. It's about experimentation. Any good marketeer will be able to tell you that you're not gonna hit it correctly on the first attempt. It's all about experimenting. It's all about trial and error, analyzing the data and going back into that experimentation. And so I want you to keep that in mind as we go through video marketing essentials moving forward, is that it's not about getting it right the first time. It's mainly about keeping at it and fine-tuning along the way. Basically expecting this overnight success just doesn't work. I mean, think of it as planting a tree. Marketing is pretty much planting a tree. If you plant the seed one day, it's not going to grow into a tree. You have to nurture it, you have to water it, and you have to be patient with it. Another thing that I've personally seen happen a lot with organizations, and this is also a remnant of another trend, which was so many social media platforms popped up that everybody was like, oh my God, we got to be on all of these platforms at the same time. So at some point you had organizations like creating, TikToks and Snapchats and Instagrams and Facebooks and YouTube, and they just didn't have the resources to manage all of them correctly. So what they ended up doing was making one piece of content and then chugging it on everywhere. Make a video, put it on LinkedIn and on TikTok. Obviously, it's just not going to work. You have these different platforms and you have to adapt the video, the content, the format, the resolution, the aspect ratio, all of it. It's not even just the technical parts, but it's also the way the video is presented, the language of the video, all of it has to be adapted. So now I'm seeing a lot of organizations scale back on their social media channels. If they had 5, now they're bringing it back to 2 or 3 so they can properly manage each of them. I can tell you how we do it here at HPM. We have an Instagram, which is not our employer branding, but it's really just an authentic version of HPM. We have our LinkedIn, which we try to keep more professional, just share a bit more of our work and portfolio. So the distinction there happens is, for example, we do an event coverage. We shoot an event, we shoot a conference or whatever, and we put all the best 3 or 4 photos on LinkedIn. And then on Instagram, we make the same slider, but we do that with 10 photos. And a couple of those are behind the scenes of the team doing whatever. And then we also have a TikTok, but then our TikTok is the graveyard of everything that is not going to end up on our official channels. Basically, if you make something and we're like, okay, we can't really post this, it goes on TikTok. So the content is never the same. I mean, yes, often we have like, okay, yeah, announcing of media partnership, sure, that can go on all channels except for TikTok. But if we have we always try to adapt it for each platform, and you have to look at your audience, where your audience is, who you have on those platforms as your audience, and make that decision strategically. Yeah, so just really on this note, please avoid putting like a LinkedIn video that is filled with professional insight on Instagram. I personally don't see that working out too well without making some adjustments. You can make those adjustments, simply changing the aspect ratio and all that will easily step it up, but obviously you would want to just natively think in the language of that platform. So this really also just goes beyond the resolution aspect ratio, but also about the content, the language, how it's presented, really. Just the video at its core, the concept of it. And lastly, the last thing I want to mention is the story neglect. This is probably the biggest pitfall in B2B. And that's why B2B videos tend to, I don't want to say boring, because they're not boring. They're amazing, especially if we produce them. But B2B videos have this tendency of having pretty much the same format, right? And if you've been in marketing game long enough, you can tell it, you can see it. And that's just because of the lack of attention to stories. Hey, you can really pull a story out of any situation, even if it's a product video, even if it's a brand journey, customer success, whatever it is, there can always be a story, and we should never neglect it. And I can tell this with a high degree of certainty because I've, either produced or helped produce thousands of videos by now. There is always a story somewhere in there. It's just a matter of not getting lazy about it and saying, oh yeah, we're just trying to get this one message across. It's never just that one message across. Really spend the time, get into the details of it. Even if it doesn't feel right, if it feels like there's no story, just don't do it. Maybe pull 5 other people and start brainstorming a bit more. Stories are the stuff that connect us, they're memorable, and they stick the viewer. They stick to the viewer long after the video ends. So when this video ends, they will remember if there has been a story in there. One of the good examples of this was this video that we did, actually for the Hague Partners. It was a travel trade video a couple of years ago. And it was a funny situation because it was in the middle of Corona. It was like, so there wasn't much happening, obviously, in real life. And we were trying to make this video as fun as possible. And probably a night before the shoot, we had a concept, but the night before the shoot, one of our colleagues was like, well, you're trying to do this news thing, but why don't you just take your microphone and toss it around, like toss it from frame to frame. It was such a simple idea, but it created such a dynamic story. And I can watch that video today. It was so crack me up, especially when the microphone gets tossed back in the newsroom, and then you hear the sound effects, and the beautiful gentleman who was doing the news anchorage did such a good job. Remco, shout out to you, you're amazing. He did such an amazing thing. I can watch that video today. It so cracks me up. It's probably one of my favorite videos to date. And it's not because it was such a high production value video. No, we knew this video was a 1 or 2 time use thing. It was not gonna, stick around way after Corona is gone. But because of that little concept, the fun aspect, the story in there, I think that made that video quite special. So yeah, I just mentioned it. What production value. It's just one thing that I want to mention. Production value is one of those subliminal messages that determines your credibility. Now, I'm not saying you have to produce a film every time you produce a video. This is where making a strategic decision on production value becomes very important. This is something that you really have to work together with your production agencies to think of the appropriate production value. You don't have to pull out cinema cameras every single time, and you don't have to pull out a grandma camcorder every time. It's a wide range of production values that you can go for. Different agencies, different production agencies specialize in that, in different values of production. So it's really down to you to think about what production value is necessary per video. But yeah, in general, a poorly lit video, a bad audio, these are the stuff that just harm the video. You might as well not release it. If the audio is not good, just don't release it. There's no point to it. So yeah, these were some of the general pitfalls that I've seen with video marketing. Now there are two longer segments. Okay, I'm keeping to time. There are two slightly longer segments with this masterclass that I want to get into. One of them is advertising on LinkedIn, especially for B2B, and how you might want to approach that. And the second one is AI, what it's going to do with the industry. So first one is advertising. Many of you might have already tried advertising, might have hired an advertising agency, might have hired us actually to do your advertising, which if you did, good job. I'm sure we did a good job for you. There's one approach to LinkedIn advertising which hasn't really aged. And it's not just for LinkedIn, but it's overall social media. I think it's been around for many, many years, ever since Facebook invented the pixel. It has been around. It feels like an eternity ago when I say it that way. And that's the sort of the multi-layered, what we call the waterfall method. And it's particularly important and it's particularly effective in B2B advertising. That's basically where you create layers of ads, layers of campaigns. Think of it as a fishing exercise, right? When you're doing this sort of fishing, you kind of like toss your net in there and then you find some fish. Now, you bring that fish out and then you start filtering it through with this sort of waterfall advertising. And that's sort of that audience refining that you might hear. Different agencies, different people might call them differently, but essentially they work the same way. And I thought it's a good idea to actually explain that to you, because a lot of times when we get into a campaign project, I like to work it backwards. People kind of go with the, oh, I want to get this message out, let's produce a video, and then we'll contact an advertising agency and see what they can do with it. But I like to really start at the end and think about the advertising campaign, the entire process there, and then work it backwards to see what assets we need. And I think that's a good pragmatic approach. I would recommend people to do that. It's just kind of makes a bit more sense. I've seen the other way around kind of fail a lot of times. So with this multi-layered advertising approach, particularly focusing on B2B, well, then it essentially becomes on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn is where you will find professionals. I'm pretty sure all of us here in the studio, all of you watching online, have LinkedIn, regularly use LinkedIn. Even before the pandemic, I stopped using business cards. Maybe a year before the pandemic, I just basically gave people a QR code to my LinkedIn. That was my business card. So yeah, we're gonna try to focus this on LinkedIn. And this approach is about crafting campaigns that basically unfold in layers, right? Each of them are designed to progressively deepen the audience's knowledge about what you are, who you are, what you do, your vision, your brand, and it will slowly get narrowed and narrowed further down into becoming actual leads. The first layer of this is, going back to that fishing analogy, is that broad net, right? And you can use probably like a 60 to a 90-second video. There's one big misconception about video content. Everybody says videos have to be short, videos have to be short. They don't actually have to be short, they have to be good. If a video requires more time to tell a good story, it needs more time to tell a good story. You don't have to shove it all into 60 seconds, 40 seconds. If it needs to be 2 minutes, it needs to be 2 minutes, end of story. Just make sure that it's good and people watch it. And with this top layer of the campaign, I actually do recommend using a slightly longer video because it's really based on the watch rate that you're gonna start filtering people down. So LinkedIn actually allows you to target people, obviously based on job, skills, yada, yada, yada. But that's your broad targeting. Now you can give them an explainer video or something else, something that you would know that your customer would resonate with. Explainer video or a problem statement. It can be a video just about an existence of a problem. If people watch it, it means they're interested in that. That's the whole point. You want to give them something that they're interested in. And if they watch it for, let's just say 75% or 90% or something more than that, then you can create a custom audience of the people who have been interacting with the video in that percentage. And this is where you introduce your brand. It's important because it's your first impression. And it has to spark the interest, right? It has to raise a question. It has to start the conversation. This video is like the cover of your book. It needs to invite the audience to kind of look inside. You can also lead them to a website, but that's not so important at this point. At this point, you want to see how well they interact with that one video. And now let's just say you started at an audience of 50,000 people, 100,000 people. Now based on the watch rate, now you can actually refine that down to 15,000 people. So you can save up a lot of money on your next layer of advertising by not just tossing it out to people who are probably not interested, but people who already kind of know about you, or at least they've seen some ads and they've already interacted. They've been interested in the topic. It becomes a lot more economical in the second layer. So in the second layer, this is where you want to engage people. You actually want to educate them a bit more. You know that they're interested in the topic. And so then the watch rate becomes less of an important thing, still kind of important, but not the primary objective. But this is where you want to give them guided tours. You want to bring them into your world. Let's just say I want to do that for HPM, right? I would then produce one short video about our photography portfolio, one short video about our live streaming portfolio, one short video about our video production portfolio, another one about our marketing services, another one about advertising. So you see, like I can create all of these like 5 or 6 or 10, 20, 30, 40 assets. I mean, for one campaign, I remember we maybe put out like something like 80 different assets in that layer of campaign. And that was a campaign widely successful. In the third layer of that campaign, we got lots of leads for the organization with a cost per lead somewhere around 12 euros per lead. Yeah, that is insanely cheap as a cost per lead. But that's kind of how it worked. In that second layer of campaign, you can just toss a lot of ads in there. And because, you know, LinkedIn has this algorithm, it will prioritize the stuff that are doing well. But then you can also manually do that. Look at the click-through rate. If it's low, then okay, kill that ad. It's not performing well. This is where you can A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way to Z test. You can put your videos in a vertical format, in a 4:5 format, in a horizontal traditional 16:9 format, and see which one performs better. I can tell you which one performs better based on a lot of these experiments that we've done, and that's the 4:5 vertical aspect ratio. So it's not the real aspect ratio, the Instagram Reel or TikTok aspect ratio, it's the 4 width, 5 height aspect ratio, and that's performing the best pretty much on all the social media platforms. Everybody suddenly decided to agree on that. So yeah, this second layer of campaign is all about these guided tours. So then people can actually get to know you a little bit more. Then you can lead them to the website, to landing pages, to blogs, and that's where you can educate them a little bit more on that. Now, if you want to lead them to a landing page or something like that, then you can track who's clicking on these, right? So people watch a video, but it's a short video. So the watch rate of 50%, okay, that's 30 seconds. It's not really gonna give you much reliable data. But if they manually click and say, read more about the topic, now you can track that. And then you can add them to a further custom audience. And that's where it gets really interesting, because by the time you get to that third layer of that custom audience, it's a pretty well-educated, well-interested audience in what you're doing. And at that point, you can really just, bring them in. You can go to that critical final step, the call to action. And that's where you can convert them from engagement into tangible leads, into tangible, measurable leads. So for example, I shared that one example with you where we did it, this 3-layer thing, and then the cost per lead ended up being something like 12 euros or something like that. Sure, we spent a bit more time on graphic design, and that was actually not even a video campaign. It was completely graphic based. But yeah, by refining the audience, you're able to reduce the cost per lead drastically at the lower end of the campaign. Now, there's one caveat to this. When you create custom audiences on LinkedIn, you have to use them. Otherwise, they get archived. And to restart the whole thing means you have to restart the entire engine. And this is where we're going to get into one of the most important things about advertising, is that it's not a one-off thing. It's not a 1-month process. It's not just like, okay, let's do this quickly, get whatever numbers we need to get and move on with it. This is a continuous process. You have to think about this as an engine, almost as a subscription. Minimum advertising cost on LinkedIn is 10 euros per campaign per day. And yeah, that essentially works out to this 3-layered campaign. Ideally, you want to have a minimum of 900 euros per month, just an advertising budget. Now, for most of us in B2B, the revenue that we have per lead, the profit per lead, is so high that it makes complete sense to actually have this. Because even if most of us get like 1 or 2 qualified lead and customers out of this approach, it will completely cover the cost of it and even more so. So comparative to with B2C, that's why you don't see a lot of B2C advertising on LinkedIn. That's because their margins are just that much lower. The lifetime value of a customer is that much lower in B2C. But in B2B, because of the high lifetime value of a customer, of a client, we can afford to pay the LinkedIn fees, which are significantly higher than Facebook, or well, Meta or X, formerly known as Twitter. The number of times I've heard that the last couple of weeks. So yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. You have to look at your advertising as an engine that is constantly running, that is constantly moving people down the funnel, and also creating an exit for them. If they are not interacting, just move them out of the funnel. No need to spam them with your ads, so that your ads are constantly focused on the right people. And in that final step, it's all about just bringing them in, bringing them home, whether it's signing up for a fam trip or scheduling a visit or just coming by to your place, if you're a venue or a hotel or a service residence, or if you're like us, an agency or a service-based company, then it can, for example, be a consultation call, something like that. Anything that then changes the medium from let's talk to each other via LinkedIn to, hey, let's talk to each other in person, or at least online, but now put them in touch with an actual human being who can then finish the sales call, probably a sales team. So this multi-layered approach we've seen this work. It has been working. It's probably one of the most consistent things on social media. I've personally been using it since I'm about to sound old. I've personally been using this since 2014 or something like that. So it's almost 10 years that this approach has worked and has continued to work. And it's really been the backbone of a lot of the tools that advertisers like LinkedIn, like Meta or X have built into their business managers or campaign managers, whatever it is. And throughout all of this, consistency is key. You have to stay consistent. You have to keep at it, stay in the game, and yeah, constantly evolve as the message evolves. The narrative that starts in that explainer video in that top, it really needs to be consistent through all the way through to the end. And that's where also creating them in a batch is a great idea. Having like these sprints of video production where you just create things in a batch, because it also just helps with production costs. Brings the production costs significantly lower when you're batching up your productions. So yeah, this was a quick overview of LinkedIn advertising and how you can utilize video in that. It's important that in all of it, to stay authentic. People can see through a classic B2B sales video, so don't do it. It's not gonna work. Try to be authentic. Try to... I've been told there's interference. I apologize for that. I hope the interference has gone away. I get a thumbs up from Kristen, so all good. So let's, switch gear now. Oh yeah, sorry, I was finishing this off. Authenticity. Authenticity is key. It's a secret ingredient. You have to kind of like change the way you're presenting things. Think about it as just really be authentic. People can see the real stories. The market is so much more intelligent now than it used to be 10, 15 years ago. And authenticity is going to be key. People appreciate it. It's about being real, showing the human side of your brand, the behind the scenes of what is happening, the employee stories, the customer experiences. These are all the human elements that resonate with the viewer and build a real connection with them. So please don't forget to really use them, utilize them to the best of your ability. And of course, we mentioned the consistency with your production value or your style. It's not just your brand colors, but really about your tone of voice. You can have a conversational tone, or you can have a more serious tone where you talk about your brand with a bit more seriousness if that permits it. It's okay to sometimes deviate from that brand, but at the end of the day, it also needs to come back to it to achieve that consistency. Otherwise, it just creates confusion in the audience. So, I'm keeping an eye on time. We're gonna continue to AI tools. This is probably one of the most exciting topics that is in the world right now. Obviously, 2023 was a big year in AI. And we've seen thousands of, plugins or platforms or software or whatever popping out. And I've been using a lot of them pretty much late at night. I was actually messing about with one of them last night at 1 in the morning. I sent an email with some of those images to Ugna last night at 1 in the morning. If we get to it, I'll show it to you, but let's first stick to the core content of this. So yeah, I've been playing around a lot with these tools, and I thought it would be a good idea to actually put together this short bit about what are they actually good at, where they're really helpful, and where they're more hype than real action. And the first thing that I want to make clear is that there's a misconception that comes with the term artificial intelligence, because we think that these things are actually intelligent. A lot of times we see them on social media, we see the results thinking, oh wow, these things are actually creative. And the truth is that they're not. They're good at mimicking creativity, but they're not very creative. And they're not truly intelligent. They're artificially intelligent. So one of the ways that I often tell people to think about AI tools is as artificially intelligent assistants. That's where they're very good at. It's the way we have to use them as assistants that makes them incredibly powerful. But if we try to have them do the job, then they flop. And I can tell you some of the examples of that. But in general, AI's role in video marketing isn't about replacing the marketer's creativity. At the end of the day, we know the human side of things better. A machine is never going to know how to impact a human emotion as well as the human would. So it's not about replacing the marketeer's creativity. It's about enhancing and streamlining the process. It's really about perfect melding of human ingenuity and machine efficiency. Let me break this down. So you can actually use these tools to transform how you develop your strategy. First of all, you can use them a lot in brainstorming phase. What AI tools are very good at is analyzing and sifting through lots of data. You see this in different industries as well. AI tools were used to develop vaccines as an example. Why? Because, well, pharmaceuticals couldn't work through a million possibilities of a drug or a vaccine, but an AI actually can because it has that efficiency. AI is really good at working through lots of data, analyzing trends, and maybe suggesting content themes in marketing. Those themes may not always be good, but it's an evolving thing. So I think in the brainstorming phase, it's very good. Obviously, it's almost like having a personal research assistant, right? You say, hey, I was thinking about this. What can you find about it online? What data do you have? What information can you find about this? I mean, I was researching about data about video marketing, and I was just basically, so I'm doing this masterclass on video marketing. What are the data out there? Now, obviously, it's going to tell me some stuff. This is one thing that's very critical with AI. You have to double check because it's very good at also inventing information. It will invent some information at times, so you have to verify whether the stuff that it's saying is correct. But when it comes to that research process, it's really good at doing it compared to what it would take a person to do. Hours, days, weeks that it will take for a human to do all of those things. Then comes the script writing process. ChatGPT, we've all used it. I would highly recommend you all get GPT-4. It is brilliant. And it can create the initial drafts based on your input, based on lots of input that you give it. But these scripts are not good. They're really just a starting point. And one of the best ways to actually use AI tools like ChatGPT is being as specific as it gets. One of the image generation tools, if you tell it to give me an image of a monkey in The Hague, it will give you a really bad image. But if you tell it to give me a picture of a monkey wearing sunglasses in hipster clothing, walking down the streets of The Hague on a bicycle during sunset in summertime, that's when you're going to get something that's going to make you go like, whoa, I did not expect this to come out of an AI. So specificity is key. Giving more and more data. Adjectives. Pick up a dictionary and just look through adjectives. Those are going to be very useful. Knowing those adjectives and using them when talking to AIs is going to be really important moving forward. So at the end of the day, our job as marketeers is about infusing those AIs with creativity and adding that human touch that resonates with the viewer and letting the AI do the heavy lifting, so to speak. So if you're a painter, you're doing the sketches, you're giving an idea of what paint to put on there, but you're not doing the strokes of the paint yourself. You're just letting the AI do the heavy lifting, doing the heavy work. And of course, we do have the power of AI in post-production. You've seen automated editing tools or these apps that, for example, sync a video to the beats of the music or to color grading and things like that. And these are evolving. I think one example of that is, I'm gonna get grief from my team because I'm about to say CapCut. And one of our trainees, when she came in, she was editing with CapCut, and I'm a hardcore Adobe guy, so I was always giving her grief. It's like, no, you gotta learn Premiere. And then at some point I went to her with my phone. I was like, so I need you to teach me how to use CapCut. So she's also, by the way, behind the camera over there. She's smiling, very proud of herself. But like CapCut is absolutely powerful when it comes to this sort of like post-production, AI-based post-production, and really doing a lot of those subtitles, the cool edits that would take a traditional editor a while to do, or it just, it's not a while, it's just one of those things that has to be done correctly, otherwise it's going to look cheap. But for the base level, for just basic social media content, it's fantastic. And I do want to tell you this, that having used a lot of these AI tools, I personally don't see it replacing your production. And I'm not saying that because a lot of our work is production and I don't want to be replaced by an AI. I know I won't be. And well, I just want to make this clear that a lot of these tools are really good at assisting us, at making us faster with the stuff that we're doing, but it's not going to replace a production crew. So it's always good to have a hybrid approach moving forward, having some of this stuff done with a certain production value, but keeping the base level and actually experimenting with AI tools for the base level. For example, CapCut, I found it really good as a tool for social media content. So just to wrap it up about AI, it's very good at reducing the time and effort that we need in editing. But the fact is that those tools are not fully ready yet. They're still being developing, but in some areas they are really good. One is script writing. The other one is sort of that basic post-production, and also in conceptualization. AI generated images are really good at getting concepts out of heads into images, so that, for example, you can talk to your production crew better. If you have a certain shot in mind for your video, you can have an AI actually generate it and then create that storyboard with AI generated stuff. So, but in the middle of all of these tech talk, there are lots of different platforms, but it's important to not lose sight of the main goal, which is to create videos that inform, engage, and inspire. AI is really just means to that end. It's really just meant to, again, speed up our workflow. It's not there to replace our workflow, but it's there to speed up our workflow. And the areas where I've seen, especially in video marketing, video production, or whatnot, where it's being useful is script writing. Another one is actually turning long format content into short. This, by the way, this masterclass is being recorded, obviously, and this entire recording is going to go into a couple of AIs that create short format content out of the long format. So it's going to get this 1 hour recording of this, and it's going to probably create around 15 to 20 short videos, which we're then going to use in our own marketing efforts. Most likely, well, not all of them will be good. Probably out of the 15 to 20, 10 of them, 8 of them will be good. But it's one of those things that can really help enhance our approach to video marketing. For example, doing a studio day like this, you can create lots of content and then have the AI turn it into a bunch of different small videos, and it becomes a lot more economical. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Economy. AI is going to help with the economy of scale with video production and video marketing. And last one I mentioned is conceptualization. Conceptualization is one of the most important things. Any of you who's done proper video production in the past would know mood boarding is part of it, storyboarding is part of it. So yeah, that conceptualization is going to help drastically, because you can actually create those shots that you want with an AI and then create a storyboard that you want. Okay, could you pull up the images that I mentioned earlier? These images are actually from an AI. I created these last night at 1 in the morning. For example, it would give me like 4 different, based on its description, I was like, give me a diverse couple walking through the streets of The Hague. And it gives me 4 options based on which I can actually choose one of them to say, hey, this is really cool. Can you upscale this one for me? Or maybe create another variation for me. And then, I can actually get this in pretty high resolution. And unless you really zoom in, it can pass. And it's really good for that conceptualization, right? I'm not saying chuck this on your social media, put this in your video. Don't do that. but it allows you to visualize the concepts of the videos that you have with tools like this. There's other ones that Ugi can pull up. This one, it actually reminded me of the Seaport video because we have a nice beach scene there at the very end of it. And there is one more. This one is just for the beauty of it. I hope this makes you happy. We just passed Halloween, but hey, never too late for some ghosts. So my message to everybody is to embrace these artificially intelligent assistants. But at the end of the day, it's your creativity. It's your creative vision that's going to lead the way. This is more like a symphony. AI tools are the instruments, but we as the marketeers, we are the conductors. We have to learn the tools. We have to know how to use them, but we don't necessarily, we're not going to be replaced by them. They're not going to take over the job. They're just going to help us get faster at what we're doing, bring in our concepts to life, and allow us to really experiment more. Any real marketeer would again tell you, it's all about experimentation. And with AI tools, we can experiment more and more moving forward. So yeah, that's the message I wanted to get across. I know we don't have a lot of time left because I like to talk. But I'm going to just quickly grab my laptop to look at the Q&A box. And yeah, let's see if people have submitted any questions here. Right, I see. Okay. So, interesting. What are the AI tools that I just mentioned? The stuff that, for example, that image was generated and everything. The AI tools, I don't want to particularly endorse any specific AI tools because these are not ready fully yet. Some of them are wonky, and as we've seen with evolving technologies, they might fail. So I don't want you to, I'm going to give you some names, but take it with a grain of salt. I'm not the one who's creating these tools. I'm just saying they're kind of cool to check out. One of them is GetMunch or Video, VIDYO.ai. These are the two platforms that I've seen a lot of people talk about them. And I've experimented with them a little bit about turning long format content into short ones. So if you, for example, do a lot of webinars or do a lot of, I don't know, podcasts, video podcasts, things like that, you can actually use these tools to create short version videos out of that. Obviously, you have ChatGPT. If you don't have a premium subscription to ChatGPT, go get it right now. GPT-4 is a game changer. I can actually tell you, I will very happily tell you that I actually developed this entire masterclass with the help of ChatGPT. And the way I did it was I had conversations with ChatGPT. I put on my headphones and, you know, my headset and everything. And I started using voice command. I just blabbed into ChatGPT. As you can tell, I like to blab a lot. And I just blabbed into ChatGPT. I gave it all my ideas, all my thoughts about video marketing and video production and all that, and had it kind of sift through all of these things and create not just, you know, an outline for this masterclass, but also 15 videos that we filmed yesterday in the same set based on the content that I gave it. So yeah, ChatGPT has been very helpful. It's been helping me write pretty much a lot of the stuff that I need to write. But I never obviously take it as a copy paste it. You have to really work with it. You have to review it. You have to give it feedback and be specific with it. Prompts and specificity is very important. CapCut is an absolute must-have. There is a mobile version and a desktop version, and there's a paid version. And at face value, CapCut would seem like the stuff that only for TikTok, because a lot of stuff are flashy, and that's really what it's known for. But if you look through the effects, you'll find like the more subtle ones that we normally like to use in B2B, because, you know, we don't want to make things flash. It's TikTok stuff. For those of you with an NVIDIA graphic card, I have one in my laptop, I also have it in my PC and stuff. With an NVIDIA graphic card, use NVIDIA Broadcast. There is a very creepy but really cool feature in there that it just creates eye contact. So for example, if you're like on a call and you're looking at the screen, you're not looking at the webcam, it will automatically adjust your eye to look at the camera. So if you have NVIDIA RTX graphic cards in your laptop or in your PCs or whatever, NVIDIA Broadcast is going to be helpful. And the images that you saw over there, maybe you can pull up the Ghost. The Ghost is my favorite. It was created by Midjourney. Midjourney is a very interesting AI. It works based off of Discord. There is a free trial version, but because of the demand, they're not doing it anymore. But yeah, the Midjourney thing, I think it's 10 euros or something a month. It's not much. And you can actually get commercial license for this. One of the issues with AI, with Gen AI, is that the copyright is not clear because technically it belongs to the company that owns the AI. But Midjourney has actually created a commercial license where you can take those images, for example, this guy right here, and you can use it commercially, which is, I think, fantastic. It works on Discord. If you've never been on Discord, it's a bit of a different universe. It's like Reddit. It's like Slack, but for gamers. And there's a Discord bot. You'll figure it out. There's like a really helpful getting started guide on there. And of course, you can reach out to me if you need any further advice, or if you want to get started on any of these tools, or you just want to ask me, hey, if you have this idea, do you reckon it's a good idea? I don't know, come by for a cup of coffee. It'll be fantastic. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it on that note because it is 12:02 and I know you have a lot of work to do. Feel free to reach out to me. My email is ali@hollandparkmedia.com. Our office is in The Hague, you know where it is. You can always come by for a cup of coffee. More than happy to have a chat with you. Thank you to the Hague Partners for bringing the Masterclass here. I hope you enjoyed this playground, and I apologize if I blabbed your ears off. Based on the amount of laughter in the studio, I know I did. Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you very much. I think 11th of January is the start. So I hope I will see you there on the 11th of January. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about this. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.